Zot Hashem, Boker Tov. We are going to be doing the Bekiim Bahalacha 33. So, so we were talking about the different what's going to be considered cooked dishes in regards to the Sudat Hamafseket. Okay, so we're holding at 16 Tet Zayin. Okay, Ha'ocher itriyot. If a person eats noodles, mutar latet alehem gvina, you can put on them cheese. Ki en gvina tafshil, because cheese itself is not going to be considered to be a dish. Kumo shekatuv beshut zivchei tzedek, like it's written in the response of zivchei tzedek. Uben Ishchai, the Ben Ishchai, shedin gvina kedin perot chaim, because cheese is going to be considered like raw fruits. Okay, וכן רשאי לאכול תבשיל אורז עם לבן או יוגורטי. You can also eat a dish of rice together with leban or yogurt. ושאף על פי שהדרך לחמם החלב על האש קודם שנקבע, even though it's the we have the custom to heat the milk, okay, before, okay, חימום זה אינו עושה תבשיל. This heating up does not make it into a dish, because כי אין משתנה טעמו, because its taste doesn't change, ושמו טעמו שמו ומראהו, it doesn't change its taste, its name, or its appearance. ולכן דין הלבן והיוגורטי כדין פירות חיים, therefore the yogurt or the leban are going to be considered like raw fruit. Okay, 160. This applies to cheese that has not been cooked. Once cheese is cooked, however, it gains the status of a cooked food. This is the ruling of Rabbeinu Asher, the Abaturim, and the Bet Yosef. And it is mentioned as well in the Ben Ishchai. Accordingly, the spreadable cheeses marketed today in triangle shapes are considered a cooked food, since the process of making it includes cooking. As stated here, it is permissible to mix cream cheese, yogurt, or leban with noodles for the final meal, since these are not cooked products. See the Ben Ish Chai. Okay, if these products would be cooked with foods, it would be forbidden to eat them together with the noodles, since that would be two cooked foods being eaten together. Even though this is the regular manner to eat these foods, they were cooked separately and remain as two cooked foods. Eating them together would be no different than eating chicken and rice, which are definitely two cooked foods, even if they are mixed together at the moment. It is permissible to bake macaroni and cheese and eat it for the final meal, since this is the normal way this food is prepared throughout the year, as is explained in Bahalacha 10. Technically, it should be permissible to eat pizza for the final meal before the fast, since all its ingredients are baked together. Nevertheless, it is probably improper to eat pizza for this meal, since pizza is a party food and is inappropriate for this occasion. Okay, 161. Sorry, not yet. Halacha, we didn't finish the previous halacha. V'chen chalav mifustar. The same thing applies to pasteurized milk. En onikat tavshil, the inyan seudat hamafseket is not considered to be a dish in regards to seudat hamafseket. Ki apistur eno ela nenakoto min achadakim, because the pasteurizing is only to clean it from the bacteria. Ve'en mogash b'chalam tav mishun, and we don't taste in the milk any sort of cooking. V'chen chem'a lo mikre bishun. The same thing for butter. It's not called cooking. 161. Maran the Rishon Etzion cited this ruling in the name of the responsa Emek Teshuvah, and it appears that he concurred with it. The On Etzion debated whether heating a food without changing its flavor gives it the status of a cooked food. His conclusion is that since it was heated, it is considered a cooked food regarding the final meal before the fast of Tisha B'Av. Yud Zayin, 17. חלב או תה או קפה בסוף הסעודת המפסקת, milk, hot milk, חלב חם, hot milk, or tea or coffee that is at the end, that is drunk at the end of the meal, of the סעודת המפסקת, מותר מן הדין לשתות, you can drink it no problem. שאין זה נחשב לתבשיל נוסף, because it's not considered to be another dish. וכן פשט המנהג בארץ ישראל ובשאר המדינות. This is also the custom in ארץ ישראל and other places. ומכל מקום, נראה שבעל נפש טוב שיחמיר לעצמו היכד אפשר, a person should try to be a person who has ban nefesh, is a high neshama, should try to be machmir in this type of things for himself, where it's possible, kedei liitnaeg bifrishut, so that he can have a sort of like a behavior of abstinence, of holding back. Okay, 162. The zera emet. Number 78 ruled that coffee is considered a cooked food in regarding the final meal before the fast of Tisha B'Av. Rav Chita, however, wrote that in the land of Israel, in Egypt, and most parts of Turkey, the common custom is to drink coffee during this meal. He explained that the restriction of one cooked food applies to eating and not to drinking. Furthermore, a boiled beverage is not called a cooked food. Maran Rishon LeZion refuted all the arguments of the Rav Chida, coming to a tentative conclusion that it is forbidden to drink tea or coffee after eating a cooked food, just as the Rishonim ruled that cooked milk is forbidden. However, Maran introduced a new angle to permit tea and coffee, as they are used today. The halacha prohibited more than one cooked food applies to foods cooked in the Kli Rishon, whereas tea and coffee are prepared in our times by pouring the hot water onto them from a Kli from hot water onto them from a kli lishon. Generally, one places the coffee in a tea bag or tea bag in a cup and then pours boiling water onto it from the kettle. This is not a genuine act of cooking. Indeed, the opinion of the Rashbam, Rabbeinu Tam, Ramban, Ritva, Rabbeinu Nisim, and other Rishonim is that boiling water poured from a kettle cannot affect an act of cooking at all. Although there are Rishonim who rule that it can cook the very surface of the food onto which it is poured, Rav Moshe ben Chaviv wrote that even they agree, according to the Torah law, there is no act of cooking, and that is only a stringency of our sages to say that it cooks the surface of the food. Even though this might not be true, and it might be an act of cooking according to the Torah, we remain in doubt about this matter. Since the halacha prohibiting to cook two cooked foods is from our sages, we can therefore apply the rule of Safek de Rabbanan Likula. Based on this, Maran concurred with the assertion of Rav Chida and Achonim that it is permissible to drink tea or coffee at the end of the final meal. At any rate, Rav Chida testified that the custom in the land of Israel and in Egypt is to permit it. Maran cited several of other Achonim who also ruled that this is permitted and that tea and coffee are not considered cooked foods at all. Drinking these beverages is no different than drinking hot water. Malan suggested yet another argument in support of this ruling. The tea leaves or the coffee grinds are insignificant in comparison to the water in the cup. For this very reason, the blessing we recite over these drinks is She'akon Yam and not Borei Peri Ha'etz, even though the tea leaves and the coffee beans grow on trees. If so, then regarding the final meal before the fast, we also consider them to be insignificant, and it is just as if one is drinking plain water. Coming back to the first argument presented by Maran that pouring boiling water on the coffee does not make it a cooked item, one might point out that the coffee grinds are a cooked item anyway, since they have been roasted previously. Roasting definitely makes the coffee into a cooked item, and it is for this very reason that it is permissible to pour boiling water onto coffee grinds on Shabbat. See Al Kut Yosef. If so, the coffee should be considered a cooked food regarding the halacha of the final meal before the fast as well. Nevertheless, the halacha remains the same, and it is permissible for all the reasons listed here. 19. Me. Yeah. Okay. If a person is drinking a lot of water after his סעודת המפסקת, not because he's thirsty, כדי שלא יצמא בתשעה באב, or rather it's just so that he should keep hydrated for תשעה באב, כמצוות הרבים לעשות כן לפני הצום, like the doctors say that a person should do before a fast. אין לו לברך על המים, a person should not make ברכה on this water. שכל שלא שותה מים לצמאו, אינו מברך, because if he's not drinking water to to quench his thirst, he doesn't make a bracha on water. Okay, and this applies to all year round. Ve'ela shenahagul levarech alehem ve'ele shenahagul levarech, and those that have the custom to make a bracha on water on like for this purpose. Alehem levatel minagam, they should cancel their custom. The safek brachot lakel, because of the rule safek brachot lehakel. Okay. Chaf 20. המנהג לסעוד סעודת המפסקת כשהם יושבים על הארץ. The custom is to do סעודת המפסקת when we sit on the ground, אלא שיניח תחתיו בגד או שטיח או שמיכה. להפסיק בינו לבין הקרקע. You should put a clothing, a carpet, or a cover so that there should be a separation between him and the floor. וקרקע המרוצפת באבנים או בנסרים, and a floor that has is with stones, with wood. This would be okay. Says 163. The Terumat Deshen explained that the mourning that we do not sit on the ground as an expression of mourning, but rather to make this meal as humble as possible. The grandeur of a meal is measured by how one sits, as we find that we must eat and drink while reclining on our seats during the Pesach Seder. Nowadays, it is normal to eat while seated upright and not while reclining. The only way that we can demonstrate the loneliness of this final meal is by sitting on the ground to eat it, as incited in the Bet Yosef. 164. The Rav Chida, setting the Shah Aliyah, explained that according to the Kabbalah, it is necessary to have something separating between one's body and the ground, even though one is wearing clothes. One should sit on a garment other than those that one is wearing. Rav Chaim Palachi wrote, likewise in his Moed Kochai, Maran Rishon Tzion cited the response of Mishnat Avraham in the name of Chesed Avraham, who wrote that this rule applies in countries other than the land of Israel. In those countries, the soil itself is impure and tameh, since it is infected with the filth of the serpent. In the land of Israel, however, the soil is sacred, as the verse says, "Your servants desire its stones, and they grace its soil." The Kabbalists warned that one should never go barefoot even on Tisha B'Av. Yet we find that King David himself went barefoot in the land of Israel, as the verse says, David climbed the slope of the olive trees while he was barefoot. Nevertheless, it is very uncommon for people to sit directly on the ground on Tisha B'Av, even in the land of Israel.